friends. Welcome to Sky House Herbs podcast. I'm Ashley Elenbaas, a clinical herbalist, and in this space, I share my knowledge and experience with plant medicine to help you on your own journey of healing and transformation. Join me in exploring the ancient wisdom of plant spirit medicine and how it can be used to heal the body, mind, and spirit. We'll talk to experts in the field and share stories from people who've been transformed by powerful plant allies. New episodes are released each Monday, so please subscribe. And now, let's explore this mystical world of plant medicine together. Hey everyone, welcome in. Today we are going to be tackling some challenging topics, specifically looking at shock and grief and trauma and ways we can process this in our own bodies. And also, if we're parents, how to help our children with these feelings. Here in Minneapolis, where I live, we had a horrible event, a school shooting in a church. It's a lot. So I am going to just talk through with you the normal processes of shock and grief. And I'm actually kind of in them. So I'm going to share kind of what's happening as I'm processing this, the things that I'm reaching towards, and then 5 herbs specifically that are really good for this moment. And I don't know if you're like me, but often when we really need something, sometimes we have to talk it out before we can really get to the bottom of what it is we need. So in doing this talk, I hope it not only serves you and people in your community, but also just know that it's also really helping me right now. So thank you. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind you, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do. It's a great way to learn about herbs for yourself, for your family, for your community. I feel very blessed to be a content creator because I know that I get to sit with a lot of you through a lot of different major life events. And this is a real privilege, and I don't take it lightly. So thank you for subscribing to my channel. Thank you if you've been a part of my work for a while now, and I hope today's video is helpful. Before we start talking about the 5 herbs, as you're navigating shock or trauma or big changes and transitions in your life, I wanted to talk about what is shock and what are the phases and things to look out for. So the first thing to know is that shock is protective. When we hear terrible, devastating news like, the school shooting or any traumatic event, and there's things, it doesn't take much to look and to find events that really can jar us and make us feel very unsettled. But knowing that the shock response is something that is absolutely normal, that it's normal to feel a little dissociated from your body, it's normal to feel numb, it's normal to be confused and to feel conflicted, that these are all protective responses that our nervous system does so that we can carry on and stand upright and walk throughout our day and take care of our responsibilities and to feed and nourish ourselves and our families. So if you hear really shocking news and you're just kind of like, feel like you're walking around in a bit of a haze, that is normal. And so just be gentle with yourself. And I know when I heard the news, I was driving in my car to a garden club meeting. So I'm exploring maybe joining a local gardening club. And I was in the car and I got a text from my mom saying, "I'm so sorry about the horrible news in Minneapolis." And I was like, "What horrible news in Minneapolis?" So I searched and it was right there on the headlines. And I was like, "Wait, what?" And this is like 10 miles away from me and 5 miles from my children's school. So, I was like reading it. I was about like 5 minutes from the garden club meeting. I was like, what do I do with this? And I checked my school and there were no alerts. So I was like, okay, well, I think my kids are safe. I called my husband. I said, check out the news. Can you keep your eye on this? And then I walked around these beautiful gardens and talked to women who loved plants. And it was sort of this surreal experience because I was kind of had a foot in both worlds, but there was nothing else I could do in that moment, So I just kept going and I kept going. And I think that's that's normal. And that's actually what we kind of have to do when something shocking happens, is just, okay, what is the next thing? What is the next thing? The other thing about the shock response is to know that emotional waves are natural. And this is part of the way our nervous system metabolizes. And I love that word, metabolizes trauma and metabolizes really intense experiences as we go through this roller coaster of waves of feelings. So a lot of people will experience waves of fear and like, am I safe? Are my children safe? Is life safe? Is this okay? And then waves of anger, like, how could this happen? How could this, how can there be so many guns? How could this, how could this even happen? And then sadness and grief as you feel the weight of sadness, the empathy towards the families who are in the midst of this ongoing investigation, and maybe having just lost a child, or is, has a child in critical condition in the hospital. I mean, the sadness and the grief that comes in. And then, rage. Like, I want to go to my lawmaker's front door and be like, you got to stop this now. So there's all these emotions that are happening inside the container of our body, and the ups and downs. And this is part of the metabolism of making sense, of sorting through. And there's really nothing in that moment to do about it. It's probably best to not act irrationally in that moment. I know at our school, a lot of parents were calling our school. They were calling our school to say, is this happening at our school too? Is this a mass? Like, you just don't know. Are there multiple shooters? We didn't know. So that is a rational response. But I love this idea of the waves being a part of our emotional metabolizing. So just let the tears flow, let the rage come inside of you. Just let yourself experience all of these fluctuations of feeling, and let your children experience these range of motions as well, as their little bodies and their little nervous systems are also metabolizing this information. Another part of the shock response is a search for safety. It's very normal when you've been through a very stressful situation to be on high alert. Your nervous system is now like, is this safe? Is that safe? So one thing that we can do to help ourselves is to search for safety in the positive. And this is something that our school sent out in an announcement right after the shooting, was, here are the ways our school is protecting your children, and help your children look for signs of safety. And I was talking with another mom after I dropped off my kids at school today, which was like, the hardest thing is to be like, okay, I'm going to let my kids go to school after something like this. And I was talking with another mom. And so she said that at their dinner table last night, she was talking with her kids. She has 4 kids that go to school, that are all school age kids. And she said, I want you, as when you're at school today, to count the different ways you're safe. So there's an adult nearby. There's an exit door. You know what to do in case of a tornado. Like, you have a drill that your school follows. There are cameras. There are security guards, right? There are doors that lock. And when we can search out signs of things being safe, that sets our nervous system at ease. And the last thing I'll say is that community is essential. When this was happening, I called my mom and I was sobbing, and I was reaching out to other moms and to my cousin who has a daughter who's starting a Catholic preschool just down the road. So reaching out, talking about it, processing it, community is essential when you've had a shocking response like this. And even if it's not something that is within a local community and it's something just very personal, reach out. One of the things I remember learning in my somatic healing training is that humans are co-regulating creatures. So we can regulate our nervous system through connecting with other people's nervous systems. And when 2 people come together, as long as they're both not completely out of their minds, which can happen, that there is a way that even people that are really unregulated, when they come together, they will naturally start to co-regulate one another. It's much better. It's much easier for our nervous system to come back into a place of like more stability if we're around someone else. It's harder to do that work on our own. So seek out others to talk with, to process with, and that will help you co-regulate your nervous systems into a place of greater ease. I know for me, we have some parent list serves and Facebook community groups, and I have just been posting and sharing, looking for ways I can donate. This morning, my girls and I went to the garden and we picked flowers, and we made about 10 vases of flowers from the garden and gave them to the teachers and to the staff and to the admin, just as a way of saying, I see you and I'm with you. And like, this sucks. This is really hard and this is scary. And here are some flowers to just show you that I'm here with you. I see you. And may this just lighten your spirits and brighten your day. And there were so many other parents during the drop off this morning. You know, one mom, oh, I'm going to start crying. She was walking out of the school with her husband and she was just sobbing. And I just put my arms out. I ran up and gave her a big hug. And I go, I know, honey. I know. Gosh, today's drop off was so hard. It was so hard. So we stood there and talked for, a good 15 minutes. Um, it was Adam and I and her husband, and we were just, processing. Like, we have to process this kind of stuff together. It's really healthy to process together. And she said some things that really stuck with me that were very helpful. And our husband said some things that were really funny that lightened the spirit. And my husband said some really profound things, as he always does, that were just very anchoring. But had I stayed home and like bottled up and like hid out, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep my kids home from school today. Like, let's bake cookies. Let's do something cozy and fun and safe. Um, but actually keeping routine is a really healthy thing, and and reaching out to community is a very healthy thing too. So let's talk about 5 herbs, and then I have 5 rituals as well. So the 5 herbs I think are really helpful during a traumatic, shocking experience. The first one is actually, it's not herbs, it's a flower essence, and this one's called Rescue Remedy. This is a Bach Flower Essence, and I really love Bach Flower remedies because they're subtle, they're very safe, and they really work. I'm going to just take some now, guys, because I need it. Let's see. Come here. And you just take 3 drops on your tongue, and it's a blend of a number of different flower essences. So what does it have? It has rock rose, impatience, cherry, plum. My eyes are all Star of Bethlehem, and clematis. That actually feels a lot better. Thank you, Bach Flower. Thank you, Bach Flower Remedies. Deep breaths are helpful too. So that's the first one. This one's in glycerin. So this one's for kids, but we're all kids. So you can use either the kids version or the adult version, which has brandy in it. 3 to 4 drops, as many times as you need it. Another herb that's really helpful is Motherwort. Motherwort works really well as a tincture. I don't have Motherwort on my desk, but if you have a dropper bottle tincture or glycerin, you can take like 10 drops on your tongue, or 5 drops on a child's tongue, or 1 drop in a cup of water if it's a very sensitive child. But Motherwort is a bitter. It's a heart regulator. And the way that I think about Motherwort is it's for heart palpitations. So when your heart is skipping beats and it's all over, it brings it into a more consistent rhythm. When there's been shock or grief or trauma, our emotional heart and our physiological heart are trying to sort out and regulate. So it's common to get tightness in the chest, tightness, clump in the throat, having dysregulated breathing, having dysregulated heartbeats. And so Motherwort, as that cardiac remedy, its Latin name is Leonoris cardiaca, or the lion heart, which is what we need when we've been through shock, is a wonderful herb. So that one is going to be drop doses. The next herb is holy basil, or Tulsi. And I just thought this herb is so perfect for right now. My husband and I teach a class called Roots and Spheres where we match up each lunar cycle with a plant that is going to be supportive for that particular cycle. And for this lunar cycle, the herb that we matched is holy basil or Tulsi. And I'm like, yes, of course, would be a good one for this time because of all the really heavy transits and Pluto Venus stuff that's going on, and a lot of heart stuff and a lot of mercurial stuff. But I didn't realize with what has actually happened, how important Tulsi would be. So if you can get Tulsi, any variety of Tulsi or holy basil, brew it as a tea, take it as a tincture, as a tea, just use it like you would peppermint. So it's in the mint family. It works very similarly and it tastes kind of similar. It's kind of minty. But you would do about a teaspoon of the dried herb in a cup of hot water, steep it 7 to 10 minutes, and then strain and drink. It helps to harmonize the heart. It's a heart remedy. It instills feelings of devotion to our highest self and also to the higher causes. It helps align our heart and our mind so that we can take action, take like heart-centered action. But if we're not in our heart and our mind, if our heart and mind are not together, it's hard to take action. And so Tulsi is going to create that cohesion. I've been taking it already, and I just feel so grateful for that. The fourth herb is Milky Oats, and Milky Oats is a wonderful nervine. It's a very good nervous system food. That's what you can think of it as, like food and nourishment. It's like chicken soup for the nervous system. It's milky, it's mothering, it's calming, it's nourishing. It's such a wonderful medicine after the nervous system has gotten a shock or it's been kind of frayed. So if we think about when a rope gets stretched and then it breaks and the ends are frayed out, well, what Milky Oats does is it sort of smooths out those frayed edges. And even better is before the rope snaps, when it's starting to fray, we can think about the Milky Oats as almost being like a coating of wax or some food that helps those little threads to come together so that it is a strong rope again. It's great for if you're anticipating a big trauma or shock, which I don't know how you can, but like let's say maybe you're moving or you are anticipating the loss of a pet or something like that. You can take Milky Oats in advance, but certainly after any sort of shock, it will help with the repair process and help you come back to a state of equilibrium a little bit more quickly. Then the last herb, the fifth herb I have is chamomile. Chamomile, I have a little bit here. Oh, this is from my garden last year's harvest. It's so pretty. And I just love this herb. It's my mother herb. The Latin name is matricaria, or care of the mother, or even like carrying the mother, you could think of. And this herb is so soothing for the nervous system. It's soothing for the guts. If trauma tends to hit you in your digestive system and you lose your appetite or you get so hungry and you want to overeat, both of those can be helped with a little bit of chamomile tea. Make it for yourself morning, afternoon, evening. My girls actually, it was so sweet. They woke up this morning and they said, Mom, can you make us some tea? And I was like, of course, of course. So I made them each a cup in their little bunny, their little Peter Rabbit, Beatrix Potter cups. And they sat and we talked. And I did tell them what happened. It was a very hard conversation. So I'll include a link. There's a great resource our school sent us for how to talk with children about, you know, violence and traumatic events. And we followed those guidelines, just basically keep it short, simple, age appropriate, and offer lots of reassurance. Like that's the best thing you can do. And so that's what we did with our kids. And, you know, one is 7 and one is 9. So they're processing it very differently. They had very different questions. They had very different responses. And that's normal. This article I'll post, I think if you have children and you're considering sharing with them news events like this, I think I found this to be very helpful as a parent. So that's chamomile. I know we're going to be drinking lots of chamomile in the coming weeks as we continue to process and make sense of this tragedy. Now I want to turn to some health practices and rituals. These are very simple. If you can just pick one of these to do for yourself, and if you have children, if you're processing something similar, maybe you can have your children join you for these practices. So the first one are grounding activities. These would be things like walking barefoot in the grass, going for a walk outside, drinking a warm mug of tea. These are all very grounding rituals that are really good for the nervous system. The second is breath and movement. One type of movement that's really good for releasing shock from the body is shaking. And if you've ever seen dogs wrestle with one another, they'll like wrestle and roll around, and then they'll both stand up and they'll shake. And they'll shake off that energy that was generated from the play. And humans will sometimes shudder and shake too, when they learn disturbing news or after they hear something that's just really unsettling. We can actually take advantage of that nervous system releasing response and just say to our kids, let's shake, let's put on some music. And, we could do Taylor Swift, Shake It Off. I mean, what better song to help you shake it off? You could just, think about a song, or just even going outside and jumping on the grass barefoot and shaking. So those could be helpful. The third would be just sticking to routine and rhythm. That's really good for us when we have been in a shocking situation, is don't just change everything all at once. Don't hide and don't flee. Obviously, if it's not safe, you can flee, but as much as you can, maintain rhythm and maintain routine. That's actually really good for helping our bodies cope with shock and stress. Fourth practice is to have some sort of creative expression. This is a great way of moving and processing information, whether that's through art, through making music together, storytelling, or role playing, or talking about safety. And let's do a little play where we all get really cozy and safe, right? It just get really creative. But creative activities, especially with kids, is a great way to process big feelings like fear and anxiety and sadness. And then the last one is something that our family started doing recently, which is drinking cacao as a ceremonial practice for getting into our hearts. And so whether you drink a cup of tea as a ritual or drink a cup of cacao, that can be a really nice way of also doing something together cohesively as a family or with a community group of friends to create some sort of container for processing what you've been through. So in closing, I just want to say to everyone out there that there is no wrong way to process. There are so many different ways that people find solace and they find support. And I do think that if you can just take a few of these ideas and maybe do the barefoot walk, reach out to your community for support, talk about what's heavy on your mind, and to use some of the plant allies and medicines as nourishment for yourself and for your nervous system. These are all ways we can help our bodies recover and come back to a place of feeling at ease. Lastly, I just want to close by saying that my heart goes out to all of the families in Minneapolis who were affected by this tragic event. My heart goes out to all the families who have had across the country in the United States who've had a traumatic event as a result of a school shooting or a violent shooting because of guns. And I just really encourage you to act, to reach out to your local legislator, to ask and demand better gun control laws so that we have greater sense of safety and security in our schools, and that our young people who are struggling, like this young man who did this horrific crime, so that they don't have access to guns, and maybe they can seek out mental health support and support from people in the community. And the last thing I'll just say is that if you yourself are struggling with feeling isolated and feeling in some ways outside of society and are feeling angry and rageful, it's okay. You're not alone, and there is help out there. And I'm also going to include a resource line in the description for anyone that just needs someone to talk to about your feelings, and so that you can get help too. I also wanted to mention a wonderful project that one of my colleagues and fellow herbalists, Thomas Easley, is providing for people who are in need of refuge and a place to stay while they sort out what's going on in their lives. Thomas Easley is turning his school, his herb school, into a nonprofit called Spring Mountain Wellness, located in North Carolina. They're turning their campus, a 500-acre botanical sanctuary with 20 plus buildings, into a no-cost refuge for people fleeing disasters and for community and mental health crisis who want a non-institutional place to land. It's a peer-run respite model, short stays, community, herbal support, and dignity. And this is just so amazing. So I'll include a link in the description below. If you'd like to donate to support this new developing refuge, please make a donation monetarily. They also are accepting supplies. You can send them yarn and art supplies. If you have, a bunch of old crafting materials that you don't use anymore, consider sending them out to Spring Mountain Wellness so that they can use them as part of their offerings. So please check them out as well. That's all for today. Thank you all for listening. My heart is with you all, and let's all do our individual parts to make this world a better and a safer and a more loving place.